Does Mr. Levesque explain to you what happened as a result of Kyle continuing to advance towards him in a rage and rapidly closing the distance?
He does.
What does he claim?
And as soon as I saw that look in his eye, I knew I had to protect my family, and I pulled the trigger. So then I ask him, okay, do you remember how many times the trigger got pulled? And he responds, yeah, 6 times.
And what do you ask?
Okay, so you fully emptied the clip at that point? And he nods in an affirmative. And then he says, so the first one that I first shot, it hit him. He turned around and he walked away. And he turned back and he came at me again.
I'm sorry, he said that after he fired the shot, he continued to come at him?
Yes. Sorry. So the first one that he shot, it hit him. He turned around to walk away, is what he said.
Okay, and then what happened? He's walking away?
So he's walking away, and he said that he turned back and to come at him again at that point.
All right. Do you continue to follow up on that claim on 55 line 2 and 3?
Yes. So I said, all right, so you said that he turned to walk away, and is that where you said after the first shot? And he responds, mm-hmm.
We had talked earlier about you looping back later to the same topic, same subject. Did you do that concerning this moment after the shot was fired?
Yes, later on I did,
I want
yes.
to direct your attention then to page 105, line 17.
So what was that page reference, counsel?
I'm sorry. Just confirming his actions prior to the actual shot. This is 105, Your Honor.
Thank you.
And Detective Garstin, I'm going to direct your attention to 105, line 15 through 16.
Yes, so Detective Flathers asked, what was his reaction to you pulling out the gun? And Mr. Levesque responded, that's when he got angry, like he got really angry, or like more aggressive, or I don't know what word I'd ought to use, but you think he was not happy, like he wanted to come, he was going to get, hurt me or take the gun, or something like that.
And then at 106, line 2, does he continue to make this claim? Or actually, is it Detective Flathers continue to ask questions?
Yeah, so Detective Flathers asked, so you're taking out the gun didn't make him stop where he was?
What is claim?
Levesque responded, right.
You know, what I think I forgot to do is some basic housekeeping. You just mentioned Detective Flathers. Can you tell us when Detective Flathers came into this interview?
So he was in the first part of the interview, some of the last part of the interview he had stepped out.
Okay. And can you just identify Detective Flathers for the record and for the jury?
Yeah, Detective Flathers is one of my coworkers. He works for the Rochester Police Department, and he has been working for the police department before I got hired on there, so it's at least over 10 years.
Let's talk then about your inquiry concerning the shooting itself. You talked about brandishing a firearm and his claims about Kyle's response to that. Page 55.
Okay.
17, you asked a question concerning the actual gunshot.
Yes. Okay, and he's coming towards you, so 5 feet or less, the first shot goes off. Do you know where roughly on his body, though, it hit?
What's his claim?
No.
In fact, you continue to press that.
Yeah, so I said, okay, do you know if it actually physically hit him, the first shot? And he responds, I think so.
And is this an area that you revisited later in your interview?
Yes.
I'm going to direct your attention to page 111, 1 through 2. What was your question?
Was it your intention to stop him, to kill him, something else, like
What's his claim?
just stop him?
And do you follow up on that?
Yes. So I asked to stop him, okay. Did any of that change during the next series of shots that went off?
How do you answer that?
No, the first one didn't. I think it affected him he heard the shot, but it didn't stop him.
I'm sorry. So his claim at this point for how Kyle reacted after being shot in the head was it didn't seem to affect him.
He indicated that the first shot didn't stop him, yes.
He didn't describe him going down to the ground.
No.
And this was in response to your question about what was your intent, to stop him or kill him?
Yes.
Page 54, this appears to be also in the same area of inquiry. I'm going to direct your attention to 54 lines 21 through 23.
So Levesque says, so the first one that I first shot, it hit him. He turned around and to walk away. And he turned back and he came at me again.
Okay, we had just visited that. And so now he's indicating that he had struck Kyle with the first shot, but actually describes him walking away and then turning around and coming back at him. Am I understanding that correctly?
That's what he indicated at that time, yes.
Does he describe him going down on the ground and crawling away?
Not during the initial interview, no.
You indicated that you had asked him about the distance that he shot him at the first shot. You recall how far away he claimed it was? This is 55, 9 and 10.
Yes. So Levesque says, the first shot was a very pretty close distance. I would say maybe 5 feet or less.
And do you remember whether Mr. Levesque claimed that he actually closed the distance or whether he stayed put and it was Kyle who closed the distance to supposedly 5 feet or less?
Yes. So I asked him, and you were still standing at this point. You hadn't gotten back down or anything, I'm assuming, right? You're still on your feet? And he responds, yeah. And I asked, okay, and he's coming towards you, so 5 feet or less, the first shot goes off. Do you know where roughly on his body that would hit? And he responds, no.
At 55 line 21, you asked, do you know if it actually physically hit him, that first shot? Do you recall his response at 23?
He says, I think so.
And did you follow up on that?
Yes, I asked him what makes him think that.
And how does he describe his basis for thinking, he might have hit him at 25?
So he responds from the way he moved, like you could tell something hit him. It's cut off. Maybe it didn't, maybe it was just
Can you back up to line 1?
Yes.
And reread that on page 56. Did we give you a bad copy?
Yeah, it looks like some of it was cut off.
I'm going to approach this witness, Your Honor.
Please.
How pervasive is that? That's pretty good. I'm going to show you is a better copy and ask Your Honor, and for the record, this is 56 continuing on to line 1.
Yes.
Thank you.
So you could tell maybe something hit him. He flinched, or maybe it didn't. Maybe it was just the noise. Like he reacted to it, I guess would be the best way to describe it.
Did you say flinch?
Flinched, yes.
And that's according to Mr. Levesque's claim.
Yes.
And he added, maybe it was just the noise that he was responding to?
Yes, he said maybe it was just the noise, like he reacted to it.
So from his claim of being 5 feet away and discharging the firearm, he doesn't indicate, yeah, I shot him in the side of the head and he fell to the ground.
That's not what he indicated at that time, no.
He flinched as though he might be reacting to noise.
Yes.
And did you follow up on that, 56, line 5 and 6?
Yes, I asked, did you hear him make any sounds or say anything? And he responds, I don't know if I heard him say anything. I mean, the gunshot did just go off kind of loud, but I did see him react as in either it was the noise or something had hit him or it surprised him. But he was definitely a reaction from it.
Okay, so he doesn't change that initial claim that it was maybe he was hit. He actually commits to it. It provides a little bit more detail. That maybe Kyle was surprised by the sound of the gun.
Yes.
And did you follow up and ask, more about Kyle's reaction to this gunshot going off?
Yes, I asked, okay, does he stay on his feet? And Levesque responds, yeah.
Okay. This is in reference to the first gunshot going off. And he's described his reaction to it as maybe being surprised, maybe surprised by the noise. But you ask physically, what does Kyle do? And his claim was Kyle stayed on his feet after being shot?
That's what he indicated, yes.
And does he describe what Kyle did after staying on his feet somehow?
Yes, so I said when the first shot goes off and you said he turned, which way did he turn? And Levesque asked, so you mean like counterclockwise or clockwise? And I clarified saying, like which direction was he turning? So Levesque says, so then he turned, he was still heading for me, he started going back towards his house.
And did you get more specific? So initially, he claims he's actually continuing to head towards Jason Levesque.
Yes,
But then he turns to his house. Did you ask for more details on that?
I did.
What did he say?
So I said, and how many steps did he make before he turned around a second time? He responds, one, a couple. So I said, so he went a couple of steps, and then did he say anything or do anything, or just kind of turned his body around? And he responds, he turned his body back around.
And he turned his body back around. His claim is that he turned his body back around towards towards Jason.
Towards Mr. Levesque, yes.
And let's focus in on what he claims happened next. This is 57, line 3.
Yep. So Mr. Levesque says that he turned his body back around. So I ask, all right, and then what happens? And Mr. Levesque responds, and then I unloaded the gun.
So this claim is that Kyle, after being shot, turns back towards Jason on his feet before the next rounds of ammunition, the next 5 rounds go off.
Correct.
Didn't it say anything about him being on the ground?
Not at that time, no.
And did he actually make any claims about the distance that Kyle closed on Jason before he fired 5 more rounds? This is continuation of 57.
Yes. So I say, and how far away was he when those next 5 shots went off? And Mr. Levesque responds, a couple of feet. So I asked to clarify, and just to be clear, I want to make sure, what's a couple of feet? Mr. Levesque says, I would say 3 feet, 5 feet. And then I ask, all right, so he was about 3 or 5 feet away, and Mr. Levesque responds, yeah.
Okay. From that distance, standing in front of him, did you ask anything about the injuries or the shots connecting in any way?
Yeah, so I asked, and do you know if any of those shots connected? And he responds, I'm guessing, while nodding his head in affirmative, just due to the fact that he ended up like how he was holding himself, and he started walking back towards his house, like holding him like he had been hit.
That after taking the 5 additional rounds, Jason Levesque describes him holding himself and walking back to his home?
Correct.
Do you ask any follow-up for detail on that claim?
Yes, so I said, okay, where was he holding himself? And Mr. Levesque responds, I believe on his abdomen. So I ask him his abdomen, and Mr. Levesque responds, yeah.
Is this the kind of detail you were referring to at the outset of our conversation when you said Mr. Levesque seemed responsive to your questions?
Yes, he was able to answer questions asked in multiple different manners and provide fine detail as well.
Did he ever say, you know, look, I don't even know what you're talking about anymore about firing the gun or where he was positioned? Did he ever invoke to you, you know, this basic confusion, you know, I'm too tired?
Later on in the interview, when he did ask to put his, to think for a minute, to have a moment, where he put his head down, but then he was able to clarify. But at that point in the interview, no.
Was that after you shared the fact that investigators were looking at video?
That we indicated that we had finished the initial investigation, that we had spoken witnesses, that we had that video, yes. And in fact, during that time too, we asked basically for me to reiterate what he had previously had said at that point.
Just to continue on the detail associated with him holding his abdomen after being shot 5 additional times. Did you ask some follow-up questions for detail? Page 58, for instance, lines 4 to 5.
Yes, I asked him if he saw any blood or anything at that point, and he responded that he didn't.
Couple of follow-up questions. You said that Mr. Levesque consented to the sharing video, giving you access. I just
Correct.
want to clarify this concept of consent. If you could share with us, you know, really what are the 2 main avenues available to law enforcement to obtain physical evidence?
Sure. Typically, whenever law enforcement is trying to get evidence, as the counsel had mentioned, there's typically 2 manners. The first one being consent. So someone can voluntarily provide consent as long as they're the owner of the property or have some sort of constructive ownership of the property. The other one being a search warrant. So we basically ask for a permission slip from the judge granting us permission to either search or seize some property.
And so consent, is this something you're familiar with utilizing, not in this case, and more broadly speaking, as a tool to enhance investigations?
Yes, we get consent all the time in cases from both victims, suspects, witnesses, from a good amount of people throughout the course of investigations.
Let's focus on suspects. What's your experience in suspects of crimes granting you consent that subsequently leads to damning or incriminating evidence?
Sure.
Do you have a conversation with the defendant, Mr. Levesque, about what he did after the shots were fired?
Yes.
And I'm going to direct your attention to page 61. And I think your question is line 4.
So I asked him, what did you do at that point? And he responds, I got back in the truck.
Did you follow up for more detail?
Yes. And Mr. Levesque goes, and I took the clip out of the gun and put the gun up on the dashboard and sat there and thought what would be the best thing to do or safest thing to do before any of you guys got there. I knew you were coming, and I pulled the truck into the driveway so I was out of the road. And I had tried the phone to call 911, but then I heard the sirens coming, so you guys were already on your way.
And did you ask him about any conversations he may have had with his daughter?
Yes, so I said, okay, did you talk to your daughter at all within the truck? And Mr. Levesque responded in the affirmative. And then I further clarified, what was the conversation you had with her? And Mr. Levesque said, I said, Kira, I'm sorry. I said, I'm sorry, that shouldn't have happened in front of you. And she said, it's okay, you're protecting me, I know.
And did he make any admissions about asking Kira whether he should run or not?
Did he make?
Yeah.
He did not say that at that time, no.
Did he provide any details about a conversation where Kira was giving him advice not to run?
No, he didn't indicate that, no, not during our interview.
We had talked a little bit about how he appeared and his sharing that he was quite fatigued when he first came down to the police station. Did you follow up, or did he make any statements concerning how that may have impacted his judgment back at the scene? And I want to direct your attention, I guess, first to page 75.
So Flathers asked, yeah, worked 24 hours, and Levesque responded, yeah, and I was up all day the night, and I was up all day the day before because they didn't call me till 6 o'clock to say that I was going in at 10.
And on line 13, did he indicate how that may have factored in at all?
So he responds, yep, maybe that's why I was laying down. Maybe it's just I've been overwhelmed, I don't know. I'm sure that it probably has something to do with my, probably making a bad decision and not thinking clearly.
A bad decision and not thinking clearly?
That's what he said, yes.
And does he make any references to that again? I'm going to direct your attention to page 150, line 12.
So at that point in the interview, Mr. Levesque says, if I wouldn't have been up that long, it probably would have had a different outcome. I don't know, who knows?
If he hadn't been tired, he wouldn't have shot Kyle?
That's what he was expressing, how I took it at least.